The nightmare began on the night of October 11, 1942, when the destroyer USS Duncan, manned by a well-trained crew and commanded by a captain who had lived his life by the naval manual, executed every evasive maneuver the United States Navy had drilled into its destroyer captains for decades. Hard rudder, zigzag pattern, full speed, everything by the book. But as the phosphorescent wakes of Japanese torpedoes streaked toward the Duncan off Savo Island, the crew watched in horror as the torpedoes adjusted their course, tracking every turn with impossible precision. Within minutes, 2 Type 93 long-lance torpedoes smashed into the hull, and the Duncan slipped beneath the waves with 195 men, leaving survivors stunned at how a textbook response had failed so catastrophically, and the Duncan was far from alone. Throughout 1942, across the pitch-black waters of the Solomon Islands, American destroyer captains watched the same nightmare unfold. Ships like USS Porter, USS Barton, USS De Haven all executed perfect evasive turns, and yet each one was blown apart by torpedoes that seemed to think, react, and hunt Navy analysts pored over reports, testimonies, and radar plots, expecting to find crew error or mechanical faults. Instead, they found a chilling truth. In the first 11 months of the Pacific War, destroyers that attempted traditional evasive maneuvers had only a 37% survival rate. Doctrine, once considered sacred, was now a death sentence. For generations, destroyers were praised as the greyhounds of the sea, trained to outrun and outmaneuver torpedoes through radical course changes. But now, experienced captains were dying at the same rate as green ensigns on their first patrol, and the destroyer force was unraveling psychologically. The Japanese weren't just sinking ships. They were breaking the Navy's faith in its own training. The cause was a weapon the Americans had underestimated: the Type 93 Long Lance, a technological marvel powered by pure oxygen, nearly invisible in the water, faster, deadlier, with a guidance system that allowed subtle course corrections, something American torpedoes could not dream of. Most devastating of all, the Japanese doctrine launched long lances in wide spreads, 9 torpedoes covering over 1,500 yards, each set to different angles and depths, creating a kill zone perfectly aligned with the American doctrine of turning away. Every captain who followed the manual was steering directly into a mathematically engineered trap. And yet, salvation came not from theory, but from a moment of pure desperation. On the night of October 11th, Commander Frederick Moosbrugger, leading Destroyer Division 12 near Guadalcanal, spotted wakes approaching from an impossible angle, 30 degrees off his port bow. Turning away would swing his entire broadside into the path. So, defying everything he'd been taught, Moosbrugger ordered his destroyer to turn toward the incoming torpedoes at flank speed. His bridge crew thought he'd lost his mind. But in one breathtaking moment, Duncan's unwitting geometry became revelation. Charging forward, the ship shrank its target profile from 350 feet to just 35. The torpedoes missed by mere yards. 8 seconds through hell saved the ship. Weeks later, Moosbrugger repeated the maneuver under controlled conditions. 5 torpedoes fired, 5 torpedoes dodged. The anti-doctrine worked. He privately called it the technique. When the discovery reached Commander Arleigh Burke, the future legend of the Pacific, he recognized instantly that this wasn't luck. It was physics. Charging torpedoes reduced exposure by 80%, reduced target size by 90%, and overwhelmed the Long Lance's mechanical guidance. Burke drilled his squadron relentlessly, creating 3x5 laminated cards showing angles, wake distances, and turn envelopes. He trained captains to override human instinct, teaching them to accelerate toward death instead of fleeing it. Wake recognition teams, red-filtered spotlights, searchlight-coded signals, squadron-level coordinated charges. Burke weaponized unpredictability. By mid-1943, his squadron, the Little Beavers, had survived all 68 torpedoes fired at them. And on November 25, 1943, at the legendary Battle of Cape St. George, Burke's destroyers executed the perfected split-charge maneuver against 2 Japanese spreads, totaling 32 torpedoes. 5 ships performed 5 different maneuvers simultaneously, charging left, charging right, holding course, shattering every Japanese firing calculation. All torpedoes missed. Seconds later, Burke closed to gun range and annihilated Onami, Makinami, and crippled Yugiri. For the first time in the war, American destroyers took an entire Japanese torpedo attack and suffered 0 damage. The charging technique, born from one desperate decision in the Solomons, became the most important tactical evolution in destroyer warfare, proving that sometimes survival doesn't come from following the book, but from throwing it away.